To start our tuning process, we need to always start with the engine torque category. As you can see here in the driver, we have 15 maps in this category. I just wanted to remember that this particular vehicle, the VAG group, has declared 340 Newton meter for this stock vehicle, and we can go up to 400. For starters, we always need to check the limiters of maximum torque. We are going to open all the maps and see which torque. We're going to start with the first map called limiter of maximum torque number 1. As you can see here, the value is 360. It's 20 Newton meters above the normal one. This one is involved in the modification, but it's not the one that limits us at 340. So we're going to check the one that comes after. Limiter of maximum torque number 2. This one is a single value. It's 340 Newton meter. So as we can see, this is the map that limits our car. We can't surpass this map without changing this value. We're going to check the next one. The next one is the limiter of torque in function of atmospheric pressure sensor. As you can see here, we have the atmospheric pressure, and here we have the RPM. The values are lower than normal. The maximum value here is 300. But in our vehicle, the stock is 340. What we can understand from this? In EDC 17, Bosch introduced limiter. As you can see in this map, we have the atmospheric pressure and the RPM values. Inside we have the torque values, but you can see that they are lower than normal. The normal is 340, but here we have 300. Why is that? In EDC 17, Bosch introduced a large number of limiters that controls the vehicle. In case of malfunction error, and the engine light is switched on, the ECU will work with some of these maps that are reduced. It will reduce the performance. And for the normal ones that are 340, it will work with the usual maps. But sometimes we need to do, whether this maps is for tuning or not, sometimes it's better to tune it, sometimes no. We need to keep the same gap between this one and the original. For example, the original is 340 and this one is 300. The gap is 40. We need to keep the same gap in case we are going to increase the stock, we are going to increase this one too. So the ECU, when the ECU calculates, the average calculation, it will find the same vehicle and we won't have a DTC error. Next we go to limiter of maximum torque number 3. As you can see, this torque is related to the gearbox, and it looks logical to me. We are gonna tune this one too. Limiter of maximum torque number 4. Here we have a very high value, which is 500. 500, it usually stands for the manual gearbox. Here in our vehicle, we have a transmission, an automatic transmission, DSG DQ250. So the original one in the TCU, it's 400 Newton meters. A 500 Newton meter. What does this value stand for? It usually stands for the manual transmission gearbox. But for us, in this vehicle, we have an automatic transmission. An automatic transmission, it usually has a TCU, and for this one, it's DQ250. The TCU will limit us at 400 Newton meters. So if we want to bypass this value, we need to tune the TCU. But for our vehicle today, we won't surpass 400, so we won't need to touch the TCU. This value is protection for the manual gearbox. As I said, we have an automatic transmission, so we don't need to tune this one. Here we have the gear. In this axe we have the RPM values. Inside we have the torque values. We can see that from 1750 to 2525, we have our maximum torque. And after that, it will decrease, the torque will decrease, but the power will increase. So, what we are gonna do is change these values in a particular way. So, we're gonna have a good torque advance. We are gonna increase all of it. We're gonna select that all and interpolation. Click on interpolation. Here in interpolation we have absolute increment. We are gonna add a value. For example, if I tap 10 value, it's gonna add 10. And we have percentage increment. If I go up to 10, it will add 10%. Here I'm gonna put 17.6. I'm going to do the same here, 17.6. As you can see how, if I put increment, I'm going to see that all the map is increased by 17.6. And the maximum value I have is 400, which is 399.8. Now I can reach the new torque, which is 400. Limiter of maximum torque, this one we are not going to tune. Limiter of maximum torque for this is single value, we're going to do the same thing. Edit value, put 400. Limiter of maximum torque in function of atmospheric pressure sensor. As you can see here, we have the atmospheric pressure sensor values and the RPM in the horizontal axis. And we have 3 similar maps. These 3 similar maps are different. If you can see, the torque is increasing. Why? Because this car has different driving modes. The normal driving and the eco mode and the sport mode. And of course, the map with more torque is the one related to the sport mode.
Can I ask?
Yes, sure.
What difference between the 3 modes, please?
For the eco mode, the car won't ask for too much power. For the driver mode, it's the normal. It's like the normal power of the torque. But the sport mode, it will demand more torque, and for that the performance are higher. That's the difference between them.
We must modify the
3 of them, yes.
Yes.
The eco mode isn't for the modifier because it's eco, but for the normal driver and the sport, we modify it. Depends on the client, what does he want.
Client, yes.
Yes.
So I had people saying that removing vehicles, like increasing these kinds of torques, something like, sometimes it may cause risk in vehicle because we have limits, something like mechanicians, they found ways to remain with that kind of security or something like. So do you think is true or false? What do you have to say about this?
Depends on the tuner. For example, if you do a safe tuning, you have no risk. For example, this is tested on the dyno. This tuning is tested on the dyno, and the car works for like 2 years. From now, 2 years. It was in 2018. It works just fine. So when you do a sample and a safe one, there is no risk. But if you start doing some abusive changes, for that you can do some damage to the engine.
I want to know how to convert people to do Chiptun to their cars. The importance to the Chiptun to convert them to do it for their cars.
Yes. So if the client wants more power on his car than the actual original stock file, you can just tell him that what we are gonna do, we are gonna not change anything, we are gonna just modify a file in a safe way that your same car, the same car you have, will have more power with the same mechanical pieces. We are gonna just change the file, and for that you're gonna have more power, more torque, and your car will be more powerful. So, to convince them to do that, there is nothing like experience. You need to tune the car and tell them to try it. So if he tries it and see the difference, you will be convinced. That's it.
Okay, you can.
As far as the most important detail for people in the car, the most important detail is to consume less fuel. Is it possible to increase the power and diminish the consumption of the car? Or anyway, is it possible to diminish the consumption of the car, increasing the power at the left hand? Because many people, they need a powerful car, but that consumes less. I think if I can convince somebody that I will increase the power, or the power of his car will remain the same, but the consumption will go low, I think many people will be seduced by cheap tuning.
Yes. There is an eco tuning for this type of clients, the ones who want less consume of fuel. We can do an eco tuning. And there is also this tuning. This tuning, we can call it will save you money. For example, if you are going to go from 0 to 100 in 13 seconds, with this tuning you are going to go from 0 to 100 in 10 seconds, for example, which means if you reach, my goal is to reach 100, for example, it's just an example. If I'm going to reach in 13 seconds, I'm going to, after I reach it, after 10, there is two types of tuning, an eco tuning and this tuning, where you increase the power. An eco tuning, you don't decrease the power, you just reduce the amount of fuel. But for this kind of tuning, we can say that you won't consume more fuel. In the modified file, we are going to add fuel, but in reality, you won't reach that much of fuel. For example, if you want to reach 100 kilometers in 13 seconds, and with tuning you're going to reach it in 10 seconds, you're going to take, automatically, you're going to take your leg, your foot off the pedal. And for that, the injection will stop. So, it will save time. And for time, it will save fuel. The injection won't be, okay?
I know that if you want to consume more, you have to enfoncer la pédale très fort. But now, sometimes they say 100 kilometers for 9 liters, for essence.
Yes.
9 liters for 100 kilometers. Is it possible 100 kilometers for 7 liters?
I
in cheap tuning?
I can't give you an exact value because it depends on the client and the customer. But I can tell you that you won't need to demand 100% of the accelerator with tuning. For example, if you want to reach a value of Newton meter, for example 350, after tuning, before tuning, you need to accelerate 100%. But after tuning, you need to accelerate 80%. That means you won't consume more. And if you reach that value, if you want to consume more, depends, like I said, depends on the customer. So all of this, I can do an eco tuning, but my customer will consume more because all the time his pedal is on 100% on the accelerator. That's it.
Can all vehicles support the chip tuning?
Okay.
We can say that the tuning can be applied on most of the vehicles. The results are not that, the results depends or they vary on the engine size. For example, 1 liter is not like 1.6 or 2 liter. It won't be the same result. We can have a big result on the 2 liter, but on 1.6 or 1.0, you won't have that much. On the fuel, on the petrol, the one with turbo engine, it will be, because you can tune the turbo engine too, but the one without turbo engine, the result won't be that big. So it depends on the engine size, that's it.